everybody, my name is Jenna and today I'm going to be doing a movie review. So last week I saw Doctor Strange and it was strange. That's a really lame pun and I really shouldn't use it, but I do every time someone asks me what film I saw and how it was. As always, because I cannot help myself and my friend Alana, who I went with, kind of, talked me into it, I bought the Doctor Strange popcorn tin and it is beautiful because it has like Benedict Cumberbatch on it, but when you stare into his eyes and he looks back, it's so creepy. Like, I literally can't look at it for too long, but what are you gonna do? So like all of my movie reviews, this is going to be spoiler free, so if you haven't yet seen the film, don't worry, you will not get spoiled by watching this review. I'm gonna start off by saying that this was a very different Marvel film to what I'm used to seeing. It was very different. It was quite trippy at times, and I left the cinema not really knowing how to feel about it, so I saw it on Friday. I'm filming this on Monday. I haven't written out any notes because I needed time to sort of process what it was that I saw and what actually happened. So the whole thing is, I don't know much about the actual Doctor Strange comic books. I don't really know much about him in general, so seeing this film was really interesting for me to sort of see it as an origin film, but part of me thinks that he didn't need his own standalone film. I feel like they definitely could have introduced him like in an Avengers film like they did with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, or they could have sort of, inserted him into someone else's film. I feel like he didn't need his own movie. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the film, if I can try and figure it out. So basically it's about this guy named Stephen Strange. He is a neurosurgeon, he's a surgeon basically, so he uses his hands, but one night he is in a car accident which crushes his hands and his life sort of is turned upside down. So he travels the globe trying to find a way to heal himself, and basically he ends up in Kathmandu in Nepal at this place that I cannot announce, and there he learns the ways of the Ancient One, or the Ancient One teaches him the ways of this magic sort of stuff, which is really, really awesome. Getting to see it was really cool. I think they did it really well. And from there, he sort of has to come into his own as Doctor Strange and sort of save the world, and kind of, I think that's the storyline. I wasn't really sure watching the film what was actually going on at times, but I think that's what happened, and if it was, then they did it really well. So in regards to the storyline, I have never before seen a film where I was simultaneously so confused, yet I predicted everything that was going to happen. So something would be really close to happening and my friend and I would just lean into each other and be like, oh my goodness, this is gonna happen, and then it did. But we'd still be so confused as to the actual plot of the story and how it fit and what was actually going on. And because of that, I just came out of the cinema so confused and just had no idea what was happening. I also found it really interesting that there are only really 4 main settings, I guess you would say, for this film. So the first one, of course, is the hospital where Strange and Christine, who is sort of his romance-ish sort of love interest person, but also not really, work, and also this other character called Nick, who doesn't have a lot to do with the film, but he was funny and I liked him. Then also there's obviously the place in Nepal that I cannot pronounce where they sort of do all their training. There's the building place in New York where they went, and the same one in Hong Kong where they went as well. So those are kind of the 4 main locations that we have, but most of the story took place in Nepal at this training place. So one of the things that I found really interesting about this film was that it had a lot of emphasis on the studying and the training, not so much emphasis on the fighting and all of that. I mean, obviously there was fighting in it, but it was a very different superhero origin story, one that I hadn't really seen before. But I did love the fact that we finally have a superhero who gained his powers by studying and practicing. It made me feel really good about my university studies because, maybe one day my studies will mean that I can throw magic around. I'd really like that, but probably not gonna happen. But then also one of the things that I didn't like about the film is that it sort of looked like it took place over a couple of months. So I'm pretty sure that we started out in 2016 and I'm pretty sure that we ended in 2016 because we had a big shot of New York and it showed the Avengers Tower and they sort of mentioned the Avengers in the film. But honestly, I'm pretty sure in the comics, I don't know much about him, but I'm pretty sure in the comics he studies for like years and years and years. So I feel like they either should have done this film earlier or they should have had it sort of cemented in the timeline timeline like earlier and then brought it forwards, but then they also couldn't do that because of what they did with the hospital. So I don't really know, one of the reasons why I was so confused. So that's all I really wanted to say about the storyline of the film. Now moving on to the characters. Again, there weren't many characters actually in this film that we really got to meet. I'm pretty sure there were only like 6 speaking roles or something ridiculous. I don't even know all the names of the characters, let's be real here. The only characters I really remember, I remember Doctor Strange, obviously, because Benedict Cumberbatch did an incredible job. Doctor Strange was surprisingly really funny and sarcastic, which I actually wasn't expecting. I was expecting him to be quite serious. So when he came out with all these funny jokes, I went, wow, okay, we have another Tony Stark on our hands. Then, like I said, we have Christine as well, who is kind of the love interest. One of the things that I found really interesting about this film was that there was kind of a love interest there, but also kind of not really at all. And I now understand why Rachel McAdams, who is a massive actress and, you know, was given star billing and everything in this film, I now understand why she wasn't really in the trailers much, and that's because she's also not really in the film much. So to have her in the trailers would have meant that we basically would have seen her entire role. Then we also have the 3 people that we meet in Nepal, which is the Ancient One, Wong, and the other guy, Mordo. His name is Mordo. And also, oh god, how do I say this now? The bad guy's name was Caecilius. And then there was also another bad guy, and that was kind of like a planet thing. So yeah, basically we didn't have a lot of characters, we didn't spend a lot of time with all of the characters, it was mainly all about Doctor Strange. I think he was in almost every single scene, so that would have sucked for Benedict basically to be there all the time, but I mean that's kind of what you sign up for when you're an actor, I suppose. So because of that, I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with all of them, I didn't really get to know them. I really loved Doctor Strange because of his sarcasm. I really loved Wong, he was really funny, he had some great sort of lines. Then Christine was just kind of there. I actually really liked her. In comparison to some of the other romantic interests, I really did like her. I thought she really did want to help Strange, but she also just kind of went with the flow a lot, which I liked. I like when characters do that. Mordo, I don't really have any words for him, considering what happened in the film and then what happened at the end, which I don't want to talk about because I don't want to spoil anything. I don't really know if I like him or not. The Ancient One, I knew I wasn't gonna like, and I didn't. And then of course the bad guy was just kind of there. I didn't really think he was a very memorable bad guy. I mean, I couldn't even remember his name, so I think this film was more about Strange learning his powers and coming into his own and accepting his place in the world than actually fighting and defeating anybody. So that's basically it for this movie review. I know that I haven't really gone into much detail, but that's because I want to try to keep it as spoiler free as possible. And honestly, I think that in order to go into this film, you really need to go into it knowing almost absolutely nothing. I know I did, and I found that while I was confused, I also enjoyed it. So I wasn't really sure where to rate it on the scale. So I've sort of gone with just 3 out of 5 stars because it's very in the middle. It wasn't the best Marvel film I've ever seen. It wasn't the best film I've ever seen, but it also wasn't the worst Marvel film or the worst film that I've ever seen, so I thought that 3 stars was a pretty solid rating. The only other thing that I really wanted to mention is that when they go into the mirror dimension and they can do all the sort of world twisting, that was freaking awesome. I don't know how they filmed it. However they filmed this movie was incredible, because when they were in that mirror dimension and everything was moving around and they were running up and down and the buildings were kind of falling, and it was really well done, and I am just in awe of the filmmaking in that respect. The last thing that I want to say could be considered a spoiler, so if you don't want to know, I will hold my hand up, and when I put my hand back down, that means that I've stopped talking about this and you can sort of unmute the video if you so choose. I think that Doctor Strange is going to be in Thor Ragnarok because of the end credits scene where he's sort of there and Thor's there and says, hey, yeah, I'm gonna help you find Odin, which is really awesome and would explain why he had his own film, but I still think that he doesn't need his own film. But can I just say, I would really like him to be in that movie, because the more movies Benedict Cumberbatch is in, the happier I am. And just one more thing, because I pretty much keep forgetting about it. If you're not that interested in Doctor Strange, you still need to see this movie. Everyone's been asking me, oh, do I bother seeing it if you didn't think it was that great? And my answer to them is yes, I do think you need to watch it, because it does introduce another one of the Infinity Stones. So because of that, I feel like in order to cement it in the timeline, in order for you to be all caught up by the time Infinity War comes around, you do sort of need to have seen it to see where this Infinity Stone originated from. So thanks for watching this kind of roundabout review. This is what I get for not writing notes. I really should start writing notes for these sorts of things. Let me know in the comment section below if you have seen Doctor Strange, and let me know what you think. I would love to know. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Were you as confused as I was while also predicting things? Who knows? If you like this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.